our last topic of the day is server-side request forgery, right? I'm moving fast. I have a keynote at OWASP coming up, and I'm doing this as a favor to Dennis, because I love Dennis. I'm gonna get in and get out so I can go prep for the keynote. Please forgive me for rushing, but I gotta. So A10, server-side request forgery, is also voted in by the community. The data didn't back this one up. And I agree with this call. SSRF is a pretty big exploit potential. It's even more of a problem with cloud services. And we saw the first big event about 2 years ago when Capital One had 100 million credit card applications stolen. This is the standard location for your Amazon Web Service WAF's credential file. And what happened was Capital One was using a parameter that caused the server to load and embed a resource. And the attacker just changed the URL and Capital One to be this known standard Amazon Web Service WAF file, was able to steal credentials from Capital One and then log in and steal 100 million applications out of the S3 bucket for Capital One's Amazon setup. This is a big deal. There are a lot of people who are talking about this. Orange Tsai is my favorite researcher. Orange, like the orange fruit, Tsai has several YouTubes on this to get more detail. I'll link to him in a second. GitHub had a major SSRF this year. Exchange through proxy login had a mammoth global SSRF in the Exchange server. I've given up on running my own Exchange servers. I'm big into Office 365. It's way more secure to use a cloud service for email, in my opinion. I don't want to run email servers anymore. Here's the actual attack. I'm not going to go through it, but this lets me attack an internal network with SSRF. Here's another way to do it. When I'm attacking an internal service, let's say I'm sending data at step A and adding it to a URL in step B. It looked like this: new URL, my internal site, data, and there's the parameter. It's easy to attack this. As the attacker, they're expecting a number, but this is just an open string parameter that I add this variable to the URL directly right there. Here's my attack, path traversal, and there's the final URL, admin report global. Boom. And this assumes you got bad access control and bad identity on the back end as well. To stop, and you should be URL encoding like this, right? If you're going to add a variable to a URL, encode for URI path or encode for URI parameter. So you're building a URL that your server used to load resources properly using proper URL creation standards. Yeah. So here's the solution. URL encode a parameter that you add to a URL fragment. Or in the case of Capital One, if you're taking a whole URL, validate it to make sure it's a legal URL for your application. Here are some resources that we see. I really want you to watch the Orange Tsai work here at Black Hat and DEF CON. These are the first big talks about server-side request forgery. They're outstanding. And a lot of the world didn't believe him that this is a problem. Jump ahead 3 years later, and we see Equifax and all the exchange users going down because of this problem. Believe me, it's real. Its place on the OWASP top 10 is just. A few notes. You want great authentication on all of your backend APIs. You want great access control on your backend APIs. And if you have a URL with a parameter, if you have a parameter that's a full URL that your server acts on, do strong URL validation. Also, try to avoid taking a parameter that's a full URL that your server then acts upon. That was a bad design at Capital One. And when you're building a URL for microservice request, build it safely with URL encoding of added parameters. Also, this is a Netflix trick. On any individual service, you can set up network controls and say this service may only make an outbound request to these other services. And now if I'm tricking a service into loading a different resource from a different domain, they're blocked from doing so. I don't like to depend on network security for my architecture, but it does help. And there's a lot of tools that will help me speed up doing this, especially in the world of cloud microservices. That's it for me. A few last notes. Look at the ASVS standard. Look at the cheat sheet series for additional resources on how to develop secure code. Also, we have the OWASP ZAP project, dependency check, and the OWASP testing guide to help you along your way in being a better tester to find security bugs in your applications. Stick a fork in me, I'm done. Does anybody have any questions about anything I talked about?
Great stuff. I have a couple of questions, but I think Ben, you said you had a couple of questions. Should be able to ask them now.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm unmute now. No, that's great. I mean, I think it's really good to get an update. So on the ASVS side of things, I mean, you talked about this. I mean, how do you link these two together? You talked about how with the top 10.
No, first of all, you don't want to link them together. Let me explain why. Hang on for a sec. Let me break out of here. Let's actually go to the OWASP top 10, right? These are not to be, these are separate artifacts. In fact, the OWASP top 10 addresses this question in the OWASP top 10 document itself. And I'm going to go there right now. So how to use it. So the idea is, if you want to do training, OWASP top 10 is entry level only, and the ASVS is comprehensive. If you want to do design and architecture, OWASP top 10 occasionally is going to help you, but you want the ASVS to help you. If you want a coding standard, secure code review, or peer review checklist, OWASP top 10 is a bare minimum. Don't use it. You want to use ASVS. Do you get the idea? For any real use, design, secure code, unit testing, integration testing, penetration testing, tool support, so secure the supply chain, it's all about ASVS as a comprehensive standard. The OWASP top 10 is a awareness doc only that's misused as a standard everywhere. So you don't correlate. You read the OWASP top 10 once, and then you get rid of it, and then you read ASVS to actually run a program. That's how they're related.
Thank you very much.
It's not just me saying this. This is in the introduction to the OWASP top 10 itself to really make sure that concept is well known.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael, my question from Michael Furnham. Insecure design is a very wide issue. What's your recommendations? Any sheets?
Go. Yeah, let's go look at. Go look at the threat modeling topics at OWASP. Right. There's the whole threat modeling, introductory here. There's also the threat modeling cheat sheet, which we've built as well. You can read. There's several other threat modeling. There's the OWASP Threat Dragon, a modeling tool. There's the OWASP Threat Modeling Project. There's so many resources on threat modeling at OWASP. I do it, but I haven't participated in a lot of major threat modeling, so I don't talk about it that much. Go read the other OWASP resources, and there's a lot of other experts that had a whole career of threat modeling. I focus on coding and technical bugs. That's my expertise. Threat modeling is not. So I keep.
No, sorry, I think the question was more around insecure design, the A4.
Secure design and threat modeling are the same thing to me. They're the same thing. So secure design is just please, and look at all the threat modeling documents to aid you in secure design. That's the best I got. And I also recommend have reference architectures. A lot of professionals, they go into threat modeling meetings to threat model different architecture designs, and they just flop around and have fun. That's nuts. If you're walking into a threat modeling meeting with no other artifacts, it's rarely valuable. So I recommend that your company establish clear reference architectures for mobile, web, and API. And when you go into your threat modeling design meetings, you're enforcing those reference architectures. Otherwise, other people talk about this more than I do. I'm going to pass on any more discussion on this. Next question.
Did we good, Jim? I know you need to go prepare for your next session. Thanks a lot. Sir. Great tour de force, a great introduction. And I see you around.
Dennis, hey, I appreciate the Open Security Summit. Have a great day. I'll see you all soon.